Hello everyone, my name is Chris and welcome back to another movie review. Today I'm gonna be reviewing Spider-Man No Way Home, and as usual I'm quickly gonna go through the story of this movie to tell you in short what this movie is all about. Then I'm gonna share my own opinions and thoughts about this movie, so in case you didn't watch it, one big spoiler alert across the screen, and yeah, just click away from this video to avoid spoilers and come back after you watch a movie, guys, if you want to. If you don't want to, you don't have to, it's totally okay. But if you really are interested in my opinions and thoughts about this movie right now, then stay with me till the end of this video and let's get started. Alright guys, Spider-Man No Way Home is a movie that's been released in 2021, and this is yet another Marvel movie from Marvel Universe, and this is actually sequel to Spider-Man Far From Home, and this is actually final movie in the Spider-Man Home trilogy, let's call it like that. And once again we follow our hero Peter Parker. Actually, movie continues exactly where Far From Home ended, and that is when Mysterio revealed Peter's identity to the world. He let know everyone that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, and now Peter's life starts to suffer a lot because of that. His friends are getting rejected from universities, and the whole world hates him because Mysterio made him look like a killer. Mysterio convinced the world that the Spider-Man killed Mysterio, and it's not true because actually those drones killed him. And you know, community is just divided, and society, there are people who like Spider-Man and they don't think he's a bad guy, and then there is a bunch of other people who hate him, and his life starts to really suffer from that identity revelation, which is one extreme factor that I especially loved about this movie, but I'm gonna come back to that later. So as he starts to suffer in his life, he decides to seek the help from Dr. Strange to cast the spell where entire world forgets that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. But you know, kinda, he wants only few people to know, and while casting that spell he interrupts Dr. Strange a couple of times, and magic goes wrong, and that's when visitors from another Marvel universes come into this movie. Now what that means is that they combined previous two generation of Spider-Man movies into this one. And yes, they brought back Tobey, the original Spider-Man from early 2000s, and they also brought the Andrew from the Amazing Spider-Man movies, and they brought all the villains from both of these movies, and now all the villains come into this universe where this new Peter Parker is, and they are not evil. Actually, that's something I really liked. They didn't make these villains evil. They're not evil at first. They are confused. All of them are actually looking for their Spider-Man because, you know, they come from different universes, and then when they see that this modern Peter Parker is not the Spider-Man they're looking for, they get confused on what's going on, and he explains them, you know, that they came from other universes and all that, and they actually start to work with Peter Parker and collab with him so he can bring them home. But there is a big problem. Actually, Dr. Strange wanted to send them home, which means they're gonna die, because in these original Spider-Man movies these villains die, and that's where Peter Parker starts to feel guilt, and you know, that's where his ethical and moral side comes out, and he cannot let Doctor Strange kill these villains, even though they're like bad guys in other movies. He still wants to be a good guy who doesn't want them to die. He thinks, you know, why should they die? And then he and Doctor Strange have a big fight where he beats Doctor Strange, and now he starts to develop the safe plan how to bring them back to their universes, these villains, without them dying. And of course things go wrong. These villains bring their villainish side out, and they start to fight with him, and he loses the control of situation. And that's where two other Peter Parkers show up in the movie, which are Andrew and Tobey, And yes, that was so nostalgic and epic when I seen it. I absolutely love it. And now till the end of the movie, from that point on, where they show up, they start to collab, all three Spider-Mans, to beat these villains from the previous movies, which are Sandman, Electro, Lizard. Who else was there? I can't even remember. Of course, Dr. Octavius and Green Goblin. So these are the villains from all other Spider-Man movies, and now they all just fight them, but they all agree on the plan to bring them back home together with other two Spider-Mans in their universes, but with any of them making the mistakes and dying. And that's pretty much the entire story of this movie. So it is kind of complex a little bit to explain, but once you watch it, it's pretty easy to follow up and, you know, see everything that is going on. It's super easy. You don't really have to think a lot about it. Everything is very well explained, in case you didn't watch those older Spider-Man movies. But since I'm born in 1999, I watched all Spider-Man movies, those old with Tobey, then the second generation of Spider-Man with the Andrew, and of course I watched the New Home trilogy. And honestly, this movie was as great as people say it was, and it's actually one of those Marvel movies that was hyped for a good reason, and hype was worth it. Honestly, this was one of the best superhero movies that I've seen in a while. Man, the things they did here were just awesome. First of all, I extremely loved the idea of bringing back old actors from old Spider-Man movies and combining them all in one movie. It was so nostalgic for me, and it was so great to see all these actors again in the same movie working together, you know, reliving those childhood memories when I used to watch Spider-Man back then in the day, almost actually 20 years ago. It's a long time, you know, and it's really nice to see all that once again. And with all the new technology and CGI and everything, it just looks even better. And I really liked the psychology behind this movie. That's the main part that I absolutely fucking loved about this movie. What was the most interesting part about this movie for me is how well it actually showed the psychology of a hero. At one point in the movie, what I also really loved and forgot to mention is that even Matthew Murdock shows up, and we all know that blind lawyer of Hell's Kitchen is actually Daredevil, which is my favorite superhero, and I absolutely fucking love him. And when I seen him in this movie, I was like, hell yeah, that was such an epic moment for me, honestly. I really enjoyed it. Now, back what I was talking about was the hero psychology in this movie. What I really love is how realistically portrayed it was. It literally shows what would happen to a hero, a masked vigilante, if his identity was revealed. And this movie portrayed that in such a realistic way. This is exactly how people would treat such a person in a modern society. You know, no matter what you do and or how much good Peter Parker did for the world, he ended up alone and hated. And that is so harsh and so sad because it's so realistic in the same time. Because when you look from that side in this movie, it's literally how the world is today. And he actually grows up in this movie. I finally see him grown up from a teenager to a man. You know, he loses some very good people in this movie, people he loved, and that was really heart-shattering and heartbreaking for me. Some of these scenes were really emotional and powerful, and they delivered a powerful message. But man, that hero psychology that was in this movie was fantastically portrayed. I totally could relate to that because Peter Parker is a person with a very good heart. Even he knew that these old villains were bad guys and villains, and you know, with knowing that, he still risked just to save him because he does not want to kill him. He believes they can be good people. They can mend their heart and, you know, fill it with love instead of hate. He believes even the worst people can be good. And it's so sad in the same time that the world doesn't understand him. And like I said, no matter what he did, he ended up hurt, he ended up alone, he ended up hated. And it just perfectly shows a fall of a hero in this movie. This is literally the hero's worst nightmare, where he does so much for the world, but the world doesn't give him anything, and he ends up hated actually, and he did not deserve any of that. And I really loved that psychology part and how well it was explained and portrayed, and how he acted all that. Actually, I fucking loved Holland in this movie. I'm not actually a big fan of Tom Holland. Sorry to say that if you are a big fan of him, but I'm not, honestly. And for me, he's only good in Spider-Man movies. I don't know. I've seen that Uncharted came out and he plays Nathan Drake. Still didn't watch that movie. I don't really know what to think about it. But in this movie, he was phenomenal. Man, Tom Holland did a great job in this movie. I absolutely fucking loved him. I also loved all the other actors, Andrew and Toby. They were also great, and all the villains. It's all original actors, and it's really great to see how these people, some even are very old now, you know, and they still perform very well. And it reminded me of the childhood Spider-Man, you know, from the early 2000s. These guys were great in this movie. So yeah, Spider-Man No Way Home is definitely one of the best superhero movies that I've seen in a while. This was really worth it. You know, I honestly didn't expect this movie to be this good, because usually everything that is overhyped ends up like a poop and big trash with one side, you know. It often doesn't turn out really good, and then people hate on it when they see it. But in this case, the hype train was, you know, it was worth it, because this movie was worth it. This movie had like one of the best superhero psychologies explained, and like it delivered such a realistic image about what a fall of a hero looks like, and what hero's worst enemy is. It's actually himself, actually not being able to, you know, overcome all the guilt, you know, and everything that Peter felt in this movie. He felt so guilty, and he just couldn't wash away that, and he fell into that huge depression because of it, because he just wanted to make the world a better place, and he just thinks he failed at it, while it's actually world being wrong. So yeah, I really loved that, and I think you should watch Spider-Man No Way Home if you're a fan of superhero movies, if you are in general a fan of Marvel movies. This is, guys, a must fucking watch. It's really good. I promise you're not gonna regret it. And yeah, that's it. I hope I said everything I wanted about this movie. I really love it. I totally recommend you to check it out. It's great. And that's it, guys. That's it for this movie review. If you enjoyed it, then go ahead and leave a like, share, comment, or subscribe if you want to, guys. If you don't want to, you don't have to. It's totally okay. You can also join my Chris Facebook group. Link is down below in the description. I post all kind of stuff over there, so check it out if you want. If you don't want to, you don't have to. It's totally okay. And thank you for watching, guys. I appreciate everything you've done for me and my channel so far. I appreciate all of your support and everything. I really love you, and I'll definitely see you in the next videos. Chris out.